A shocking secret changes everything when CEO Zuri Bennett's life crumbles in an instant. Left paralyzed and vulnerable, she hires Evan Hart, a gentle caregiver who sees her strength when the world only sees her wheelchair.
Wow.
But as trust turns to forbidden love in the most intimate moments of her recovery, a single photograph threatens to destroy everything she's fought to rebuild. Her vengeful ex-fiancé will stop at nothing to control her narrative, even if it means exposing their deepest secrets to the world. Will she choose the safety of society's expectations or risk her reputation, her company, and her carefully guarded heart for a love that promises to heal them both? This is a story where 3 steps forward changes everything, and where the most powerful woman in the city must learn that sometimes falling in love means learning to stand again. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're from. The elevator climbed to the 22nd floor with a soft hum. Evan Hart adjusted his grip on the leather portfolio and checked his watch. 7:15. Right on time. He'd been doing this job for 3 years now. Home care wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and helped people when they needed it most. Still, his stomach felt tight as the doors opened. This client was different, a CEO, someone important. The hallway was all polished marble and soft lighting. Evan found apartment 22B and knocked twice, gentle but firm. The door opened to reveal a woman about his age with sharp, intelligent eyes. She wore a crisp white blouse and had her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. "You must be Evan," she said, though her tone suggested she wasn't entirely pleased. "I'm Maya, Zuri's sister." Maya stepped back to let him in, but her arms stayed crossed. "The agency explained everything, right? What this job involves?" "Yes, ma'am. Personal care assistance, bathing, transfers, mobility support." Evan kept his voice professional. "I brought the paperwork." Maya led him into a living room that looked like something from a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city stretching out below. Everything was clean lines and expensive furniture. "Maya, is he here?" The voice came from down a hallway. It was strong, controlled, the kind of voice that was used to being heard. "Coming, Zuri." Evan followed Maya deeper into the apartment. They passed a kitchen with granite counters and stainless steel appliances. Everything was perfect, almost too perfect. They found Zuri Bennett in what looked like a home office. She sat behind a large desk in a sleek wheelchair, typing on a laptop. When she looked up, Evan felt something catch in his chest. She was beautiful, but that wasn't what stopped him. It was the way she held herself, straight back, chin up, like she was daring the world to feel sorry for her. "Mr. Hart." She closed the laptop and rolled forward. "Thank you for coming." "Ms. Bennett." Evan shifted his portfolio to his left hand and extended his right. "I'm here to help however you need." Her handshake was firm and quick. "The agency mentioned you have experience with spinal cord injuries." "Yes, I worked with a client who had a T12 incomplete injury for 8 months. And my father," Evan paused. "My dad had a stroke last year. I know how important dignity is during recovery." Something flickered across Zuri's face. Not quite a smile, but close. "Maya, could you show him the bathroom? I need to finish this email." Maya nodded and gestured for Evan to follow. As they walked down another hallway, she kept her voice low. "My sister built a company from nothing. She's worth more money than you can probably imagine. 3 months ago, a car accident changed everything." Maya stopped outside a closed door. "She's proud, sometimes too proud, and she doesn't trust easily." "I understand." "Do you?" Maya turned to face him fully. "Because if you're here for some easy paycheck, or if you think she's vulnerable in some way, you can take advantage of, I'm here to do my job." Evan's voice stayed calm, but got firmer. "Nothing else." Maya stared at him for a long moment, then opened the bathroom door. The room was all white marble and gleaming fixtures. A large soaking tub sat against one wall, with a separate glass shower. It was beautiful, but Evan immediately saw the problems. "No grab bars," he murmured, stepping inside. "The tub's too deep for safe transfers, and this tile—" He knelt and ran his hand across the floor. "It's going to be slippery when wet." "You can see all that from just looking." Evan stood and turned to Maya. "I can see what might cause problems, yes, but I'll need to talk with Ms. Bennett about what feels safe for her. Every person is different." Maya's expression softened slightly. "She doesn't like feeling helpless." "Then I won't make her feel that way." They walked back to the office, where Zuri was sliding papers into a folder. "Your bathroom is lovely," Evan said, "but we'll need to make some adjustments. I can bring some temporary safety equipment tomorrow if that works for you." "What kind of adjustments?" "A shower bench that fits your tub properly, some grip tape for the floor, maybe a rail by the toilet." Evan kept his tone matter-of-fact. "Nothing permanent. Just things to make everything easier." Zuri's jaw tightened. "I don't want this place to look like a hospital." "It won't, I promise." She studied his face for a moment. "The agency said you build things, furniture." "In my spare time, yes. It helps me understand how things should fit together safely." "Show me your hands." The request surprised him, but Evan held out both hands, palms up. Zuri leaned forward in her chair and looked at them carefully. His palms were calloused from years of construction work before he switched to home care. His fingers were long and steady. "You have good hands," she said finally. "Careful hands." "Yes, ma'am." Zuri rolled back from her desk. "There are rules. The agency gave you paperwork?" Evan opened his portfolio and pulled out a folder. "Non-disclosure agreement, professional boundaries guidelines, and emergency contact information. I can sign everything now if you'd like." "Maya, can you give us some privacy?" Maya looked like she wanted to argue, but she nodded and left the room. When they were alone, Zuri's formal mask slipped just a little. "I've never needed help like this before," she said quietly. "I don't know how to not be in control." Evan sat down in the chair across from her desk. "You are in control. This is your home, your body, your decisions. I'm just here to make sure you're safe while you do what you need to do. And if I decide I don't want to continue, then I'll leave, no questions asked." Zuri nodded slowly. "I usually shower at 7:30. Is that too early?" "Whatever time works for you works for me." "And you understand this is," she gestured at her legs, "this is private, personal." "I understand. I've signed confidentiality agreements before. Your privacy matters to me." Zuri picked up a pen and signed the papers one by one. Her signature was bold and quick. "We'll start tomorrow morning," she said, handing the folder back to him. 7:30 sharp. "I'll be here." Evan stood to leave, but Zuri's voice stopped him at the door. "Mr. Hart, have you ever been afraid to trust someone?" He turned back to face her. "Every day, Ms. Bennett, every single day." Something passed between them in that moment, not understanding exactly, but recognition, like two people who knew what it meant to guard their hearts. "See you tomorrow," Zuri said. Evan found Maya waiting by the front door. "How did it go?" she asked. "I think we understand each other." Maya opened the door for him, but as he stepped into the hallway, she called his name. "Evan? Yes?" "Don't hurt her. She's been through enough." "I won't," he said, and he meant it. The next morning, Evan arrived at 7:25 with a small duffel bag and his phone. He'd spent the evening researching adaptive bathroom equipment and sketching ideas for a proper shower bench. Maya answered the door again, but this time she looked less suspicious and more tired. "She's nervous," Maya said as she led him inside. She barely slept. First times are always hard. They found Zuri in the kitchen, drinking coffee from a large white mug. She wore a soft blue robe and had her hair pinned up. Without makeup, she looked younger, more vulnerable. "Good morning," Evan said. "I brought a few things that might help today." He set his bag on the counter and pulled out a few items. A rubber bath mat with suction cups, some adhesive grip strips, a plastic shower chair that would fit inside the tub. "These are temporary," he explained, "just until I can build something better." Zuri wheeled closer to examine the items. "You really did your homework. I want you to feel safe. And if I fall, I'll catch you, but you won't fall. We'll go slow and make sure every move is secure." Zuri set down her coffee mug. "Maya, I need you to leave the apartment. Go get groceries or something. Come back in 2 hours." "Zuri, I don't think—" "Maya." Zuri's voice carried the authority of someone used to running board meetings. "Please." After Maya left, the apartment felt different, quieter, more intimate. "Shall we?" Zuri asked, rolling toward the bathroom. Evan followed with his bag of supplies. In the bathroom, he knelt by the tub and began placing the grip strips on the bottom and sides. "The water temperature matters," he said as he worked. "Not too hot because sensation might be different now, and we'll test everything with your hand first." Zuri watched him position the shower chair and adjust its height. His movements were careful and precise. When he turned on the water to test the temperature, steam began to rise. "I need to ask about transfer preferences," Evan said, keeping his eyes on the water. "Some people like assistance from the side, others prefer support from behind. What feels safer to you?" "I don't know. I haven't. This is the first time." Evan turned off the water and faced her. "Then we'll figure it out together. And if something doesn't feel right, you tell me immediately, okay?" Zuri nodded. "I'm going to step outside while you undress. Call when you're ready." He closed the door behind him and waited in the hallway. Through the door, he could hear the soft sounds of movement, the rustle of fabric. His own heart was beating faster than normal, but not for any improper reason. He was nervous because this mattered, because getting this right could mean the difference between Zuri feeling dignified or humiliated. "I'm ready," came her voice through the door. Evan knocked once and entered. Zuri sat in her wheelchair with a large white towel wrapped around herself. Her shoulders were tense. "The shower chair's secure," Evan said, checking it one more time. "And I've got towels warming on the radiator." He moved to stand beside her wheelchair. "I'm going to put one arm around your back and one under your knees. Is that okay?" "Yes." Evan lifted her gently from the wheelchair to the shower chair. She was lighter than he'd expected, and he could feel how tightly she held herself. "You're doing great," he said quietly. The warm water felt good against Zuri's skin. Evan tested the temperature on her hand first, then let it flow over her shoulders. He worked with quiet efficiency, shampooing her hair with careful fingers, soaping a soft cloth to wash her back and arms. When he reached for her legs, Zuri tensed. "Is this okay?" he asked. "Yes, just be gentle." Evan's touch was light and respectful as he washed her legs and feet. He noticed her watching his face, maybe looking for some sign of pity or awkwardness, but his expression stayed calm and focused. "All done," he said, reaching for a warm towel. As he helped her dry off, Zuri's foot slipped slightly on the wet shower chair, not dangerous, but enough to make her gasp. Evan's hands steadied her instantly, strong and sure. "I've got you," he said. "You're safe." For a moment they stayed like that, his hands supporting her, her eyes locked on his face. In that moment, something shifted between them. Trust, maybe, or the beginning of it. "Thank you," Zuri whispered. Evan helped her back into her wheelchair and handed her a thick terry cloth robe. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked as she tied the robe belt. Zuri looked at him for a long moment. He stood there in his damp shirt, hair slightly messed from the steam, looking like exactly what he was. A man who'd just done a difficult job with kindness and skill. "Yes," she said. "Same time tomorrow." After Evan left, Zuri sat in her bedroom looking at herself in the mirror. For the first time since the accident, she didn't feel broken. She felt cared for. That was dangerous. But maybe, she thought, it was also exactly what she needed. 3 weeks fell into a rhythm that surprised them both. Every morning at 7:30, Evan arrived with his quiet competence and steady hands. The temporary shower chair had been replaced by something he'd built himself, a bench of smooth cedar that fit Zuri's bathtub perfectly and folded away when not in use. "You didn't have to do this," Zuri had said the morning he brought it, running her fingers along the sanded edges. "I wanted to," Evan replied simply, and something in his voice made her chest feel warm. Maya had stopped hovering by the second week. She still arrived each morning to let Evan in, but now she'd make coffee and retreat to her own apartment downstairs. The change meant Zuri and Evan had begun talking more during their morning routine. "My physical therapist wants me to try standing exercises next week," Zuri mentioned on a Tuesday morning as Evan helped her into the shower. "That's good news. How do you feel about it?" "Terrified." The honesty surprised her. She didn't usually admit fear to anyone. Evan paused in testing the water temperature. "Want to tell me why?" "What if I can't do it? What if there's no progress at all?" Zuri's voice got quieter. "What if this is as good as it gets?" Evan turned to face her fully. Steam was starting to rise around them, making the bathroom feel like a safe cocoon. "Then this is good enough," he said. "You're still you, Zuri. Wheelchair or no wheelchair, strong is strong." Something about the way he said her name made her heart skip. Not Ms. Bennett anymore, just Zuri. "Is that what you told your father?" she asked. Evan's hands stilled for a moment. "My dad's stroke took his speech for a while. He couldn't say my name for 3 months, but when he finally did," Evan smiled, remembering, "he said it like it was the most important word in the world." Is he better? Now? Getting there. Some days are harder than others, but he keeps trying, so I keep hoping. As Evan shampooed her hair, Zuri found herself relaxing in ways that had nothing to do with the warm water. His touch was becoming familiar, trusted. When his fingers worked gently at her scalp, she actually sighed with contentment. That feels nice, she admitted. Good. You carry a lot of tension in your shoulders. Occupational hazard of running a company. What kind of company? Evan asked as he rinsed her hair. Marketing and brand consulting. We help businesses figure out their story and tell it better. Zuri paused. Ironic, isn't it? I'm an expert at managing other people's images, but I can't figure out how to handle my own situation. Maybe because this isn't about image. This is about healing. After her shower, as Evan helped her with lotion and getting dressed, Zuri found herself studying his face. He had kind eyes, she realized, the sort that crinkled slightly at the corners when he concentrated. His brown hair was always a little messy by the end of their sessions, and he had a small scar through his left eyebrow that she wondered about. Can I ask you something personal? She said as he helped her transfer back to her wheelchair. Sure. Why do you do this job? I mean, really, you could build furniture full-time, couldn't you? Make more money? Evan was quiet for a moment, adjusting the footrests on her chair. My mom died when I was 15, he said finally. Cancer. For the last few months, she needed help with everything, bathing, dressing, eating. My dad tried, but he was so scared of hurting her that he'd shake. Zuri waited, sensing there was more. I wasn't scared, Evan continued. I don't know why. Maybe because I was young and stupid, but I could help her without making her feel ashamed. And in those last weeks, when everything else was falling apart, our morning routine was the one thing that felt normal, like we were taking care of each other. I'm sorry, Zuri said softly. Don't be. It taught me something important. Sometimes the most intimate thing you can do for someone isn't romantic. It's just showing up when they're vulnerable and treating them like they're still whole. Their eyes met in the bathroom mirror, and Zuri felt something shift between them again, deeper this time, more dangerous. Same time tomorrow? Evan asked, like always. Actually, Zuri said, I was wondering if you'd like to stay for coffee. Maya usually brings pastries on Wednesdays. Evan's smile was gentle but careful. I'd like that, but I should probably check with the agency about extending visits. Right, of course. Zuri felt foolish for asking. But the next Wednesday, Evan arrived with paperwork showing he'd cleared an extra hour for extended care consultation. They sat at Zuri's kitchen island with coffee and Maya's famous blueberry scones, talking about everything except the growing warmth between them. Tell me about your furniture, Zuri said, curling her hands around her mug. It's just a hobby. Show me. Evan pulled out his phone and scrolled through photos. Hand-carved coffee tables, bookshelves with intricate joinery, a rocking chair that looked like art. These are beautiful, Zuri breathed, swiping through the images. You could sell these for serious money. Some people say that, but I like making them for people I care about. My dad has half my stuff in his apartment now. What about you? What do you keep for yourself? Not much. I live pretty simply. Show me. Evan hesitated, then scrolled to a photo of his apartment. It was small and clean, with warm lighting and a few carefully chosen pieces. A bookshelf filled with worn paperbacks, a comfortable-looking armchair by a window, a kitchen table he'd obviously made himself. It looks peaceful, Zuri said. It is. Sometimes I think too much space just means more places to hide from yourself. Zuri looked around her immaculate apartment with new eyes, everything perfect and pristine and somehow cold. I've been hiding for 3 months, she said quietly. From what? From looking weak. From needing help. From... She gestured vaguely at the space between them. From feeling things I'm not supposed to feel. The air in the kitchen seemed to thicken. Evan set down his coffee cup. Zuri. I know. Professional boundaries, agency rules. I know all of that. She met his eyes. But knowing doesn't make it stop. No, Evan said quietly. It doesn't. They sat in silence for a moment, the admission hanging between them like a bridge neither was ready to cross. Evan's phone buzzed, a text from his next client. I should go, he said, standing. Of course. But at the front door, he turned back. For what it's worth, he said, you're not weak. You're the strongest person I know. After he left, Zuri sat in her empty apartment, wondering when everything had become so complicated. And why complicated was starting to feel like the only thing that made sense. The following Monday brought Mrs. Elena Alvarez, the physical therapist Maya had found. She was a sturdy woman in her 50s with kind but no-nonsense eyes and hands that knew their business. So, Mrs. Alvarez said, settling into a chair across from Zuri, tell me about your injury. T11 incomplete, 3 months post-accident, some sensation returning in my legs, but no voluntary movement yet. Mrs. Alvarez made notes on her tablet. And who's been helping with your daily care? Evan. He's from the home care agency. I'd like him here for the evaluation if that's okay. It helps to see how you move together. When Evan arrived, Mrs. Alvarez watched carefully as he helped Zuri transfer from her wheelchair to the examination table. She noted how they communicated with small gestures and quiet words, how Evan anticipated her needs without taking over. Good, Mrs. Alvarez murmured. Very good. You two work well together. The evaluation itself was thorough but gentle. Mrs. Alvarez tested Zuri's reflexes, checked her muscle tone, and had her attempt small movements while she supported her legs. I want to try something, Mrs. Alvarez said. Evan, can you stand behind her, support her back and shoulders? Evan moved into position, his hands steady against Zuri's shoulder blades. Now, Zuri, I want you to try to straighten your legs. Don't worry about standing up, just focus on the muscles. Zuri closed her eyes and concentrated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, her left leg began to extend. Oh my God, she breathed. Don't stop, keep going. Her right leg followed, shaky but definite. She wasn't standing, but her legs were holding some of her weight. Excellent. How does that feel? Strange, tingly, but Zuri's voice was full of wonder. I can feel it. Evan's hand stayed steady on her back, but she could sense his excitement. This is very promising, Mrs. Alvarez said. I think we can start you on a standing program next week. Short sessions, well supported, but the potential is definitely there. After Mrs. Alvarez left, Zuri and Evan sat in the living room, both still processing what had happened. I straightened my legs, Zuri said, like she couldn't quite believe it. You did. For the first time since the accident, I actually think... She stopped, afraid to voice the hope. That you might walk again? That I might get some of myself back? Evan leaned forward in his chair. Zuri, you never lost yourself. Your legs don't define who you are. Maybe not, but having hope again, that changes everything. That evening, as Evan prepared to leave, Zuri called him back from the doorway. Evan, when I was doing those exercises today, I felt safe because you were there. Not just because you're good at your job, but because it's you. Evan's throat worked as he swallowed. I know what you mean. This is getting complicated, isn't it? Yeah, it is. They looked at each other across the space of her entryway, both understanding that they had crossed some invisible line, that what was growing between them was bigger than professional care and more dangerous than either had planned. I should probably request a different aide, Zuri said quietly. Probably. But I don't want to. Neither do I. And with that admission hanging in the air between them, they both knew that whatever came next would change everything. The standing exercises became the center of Zuri's week. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Mrs. Alvarez would guide her through careful progressions while Evan provided steady support. By the third week, Zuri could stand for nearly 30 seconds with minimal assistance. Remember to breathe, Mrs. Alvarez coached as Zuri gripped the parallel bars. Your body knows how to do this. Evan stood close behind her, his hands hovering near her waist, ready to catch her if needed, but giving her space to succeed on her own. When she reached the 30-second mark, he couldn't hide his grin. That's incredible, he said as she settled back into her wheelchair, breathing hard but triumphant. It's a start, Zuri replied, but her eyes were bright with pride. Later, as they sat in her kitchen sharing their usual post-therapy coffee, Zuri's phone buzzed with a text from someone named Victor. Her expression immediately darkened. Problem? Evan asked. My ex-fiancé. He's also my former business partner and current pain in the neck. Zuri set the phone aside without reading the message. Victor has opinions about how I should be handling my situation, as he calls it. What kind of opinions? The kind where I disappear from public view until I'm miraculously cured. Bad for the brand image, apparently, to have a CEO in a wheelchair. Evan's jaw tightened. Sounds like a charming guy. He wasn't always like this. The accident just brought out his true priorities. Zuri picked up her coffee mug, then set it down without drinking. He's been pushing me to do some kind of press statement, show everyone I'm still the same confident leader, just temporarily sidelined. And I keep putting him off because I don't feel like the same person. How can I convince other people of something I'm not sure about myself? Evan was quiet for a moment, considering his words carefully. Can I tell you something my dad said to me last week? Zuri nodded. He's been working with a speech therapist since his stroke. Some days he can barely get 3 words out. Other days he talks for an hour. I asked him if it frustrated him having good days and bad days. He said, "Son, I'm not the same man I was before. But I'm not less of a man, just different. And different can still be strong." Zuri felt tears prick at her eyes. Your father sounds like a wise man. He is, and he's right. You're not the same person you were before your accident, but that doesn't mean you're less than you were. The phone buzzed again. This time, Victor was calling. I should probably take this, Zuri said reluctantly. I'll give you some privacy. Evan moved to the living room, but the apartment wasn't large enough to prevent him from overhearing Zuri's side of the conversation. No, Victor, I'm not ready. Because it doesn't feel authentic. Well, maybe that's because I'm still figuring things out. What do you mean, rumors? The tone of her voice changed, became sharper. What kind of rumors? Someone saw what? Victor, that's none of your business. No, I won't fire him, because this is my life, not a publicity campaign. When she hung up, Evan returned to the kitchen to find Zuri staring at her phone with a mix of anger and worry. Everything okay? Victor says there are rumors about us. Apparently, someone in the building saw you helping me on the balcony last week and got the wrong idea. Last Thursday evening, Zuri had asked Evan to help her get some fresh air on her apartment's balcony. It had been perfectly innocent, just transferring her to a chair outside so she could enjoy the sunset, but Evan could see how it might have looked to an observer. I'm sorry, he said. I should have thought about appearances. Don't you dare apologize for helping me live like a normal person. Zuri's voice was fierce. Victor can deal with his own insecurities. But as the week progressed, it became clear that Victor wasn't going to let it go. He sent increasingly urgent texts about managing the narrative and protecting Zuri's professional reputation. The breaking point came the following Wednesday. Evan arrived for their usual session to find Maya pacing in the living room and Zuri sitting rigidly in her wheelchair by the window. What's wrong? He asked immediately. Show him, Maya said, nodding toward Zuri. Zuri held up her phone. On the screen was a photo, clearly taken from another building, showing Evan helping Zuri onto her balcony. The angle made it look intimate, romantic even. The caption read, "Local CEO's new caregiver. Is this professional?" It's on some gossip blog, Zuri explained, her voice tight with control. Victor sent it to me this morning with a whole plan for damage control. Evan felt sick. Zuri, I never meant for anything like this to happen. I know that, but it doesn't matter what we intended. She turned her wheelchair to face him fully. Victor's demanding I request a different aide. He says the agency will have to reassign you to protect everyone involved. Maybe that's not the worst idea, Evan said quietly. Both women stared at him. I mean, he continued, if this is causing problems for you professionally. Don't you dare, Zuri interrupted. Don't you dare make this decision for me. I'm not trying to make decisions for you. I'm trying to protect you. From what? From gossip? From people who don't understand? Zuri's eyes flashed. Or from caring about someone who's supposed to be just the help? The words hung in the air like a slap. Evan felt something break inside his chest. Is that what you think? He asked. That I see myself as just the help? I don't know what to think anymore. Zuri's voice cracked slightly. Everything is so complicated, and Victor's in my ear telling me I'm being unprofessional, and Maya's worried about me getting hurt, and I don't know how to do this. Maya cleared her throat. Maybe I should go. No, Zuri said firmly. Stay. Evan, sit down, please. Evan remained standing. If you want me to request reassignment, I will. Whatever's best for you. That's just it. I don't know what's best anymore. Zuri rubbed her temples. 3 months ago, I had my whole life planned out. Clear goals, clear boundaries, clear sense of who I was. Now I spend my days looking forward to shower time because it's the only part of my day that feels real. Zuri, Evan said softly, I care about you. The admission came out in a rush. More than I should, more than is probably smart, but I do. And I think you care about me too. But I don't know if that's enough to deal with all the mess that comes with it. Evan looked at Maya, who nodded encouragingly, then back at Zuri. I do care about you, he said, more than is probably smart for either of us. But caring about you isn't the problem. The problem is that I've spent 3 months watching you rebuild your life, and now I'm scared I might mess that up. So what do we do? Before Evan could answer, Zuri's phone rang. Victor again. This time, she answered on speaker. Zuri, thank God. I've been trying to reach you all morning. I've got good news. I found you a new aide. Female, excellent credentials, can start Monday. This whole mess can be behind us by next week. Zuri met Evan's eyes across the room. In that moment, she saw everything clearly. Victor's need to control her narrative, society's assumptions about what was appropriate, her own fears about being vulnerable. And underneath all of that, one simple truth. She trusted Evan Hart more than she'd trusted anyone in years. No, she said into the phone. What do you mean, no? I mean, no, Victor, I'm not changing aides. Evan is professional, skilled, and trustworthy. What people choose to assume about our working relationship says more about them than about us. Zuri, you're not thinking clearly. This could damage everything you've worked for. Maybe, or maybe it could help me figure out what actually matters. She looked directly at Evan as she spoke. I'm tired of making decisions based on what other people might think. I'm going to start making them based on what I know is right. There was a long pause on the phone. Then Victor's voice, cold and controlled. Fine. But when this blows up in your face, don't expect me to clean up the mess. I wouldn't dream of it, Zuri replied, and hung up. The apartment fell silent except for the sound of traffic from the street below. Well, Maya said finally, that felt like a line in the sand. It was, Zuri agreed. She rolled her wheelchair closer to where Evan stood. But now I need to know something. Are you staying because you feel sorry for me? Because you feel obligated? No. Then why? Evan knelt beside her wheelchair so they were at eye level. Because when I'm here with you, I feel like the best version of myself. Because you challenge me and trust me and make me want to be worthy of that trust. Because in 3 months, you've become the most important part of my day. He paused. And because I think you might be falling for me the same way I'm falling for you. I am, Zuri whispered. I really am. Then we'll figure out the rest as we go. Maya cleared her throat again. Okay, you two, I'm definitely leaving now. But for the record, I think you're both brave and stupid, and I hope it works out. After she left, Zuri and Evan sat together in the quiet apartment, both understanding that everything had changed. So where do we go from here? Zuri asked. Carefully, Evan replied, but together. And for the first time since her accident, Zuri felt like she was moving toward something instead of just trying not to fall. The weeks that followed Victor's ultimatum settled into a new kind of rhythm. Zuri and Evan moved carefully around their feelings, like dancers learning a complicated routine. Their morning sessions remained professional on the surface, but underneath ran a current of something deeper. How are you feeling about today? Evan asked as he prepared the shower on a Thursday morning in late November. Today was special. Mrs. Alvarez had cleared Zuri to attempt taking 2 independent steps during their therapy session. Nervous, excited, terrified, Zuri admitted, transferring from her wheelchair to the shower bench. What if I fall? Then I'll catch you, but you won't fall. How can you be so sure? Evan paused in his movements, looking at her seriously. Because I've watched you fight for every inch of progress, because you're stronger than you know, and because I'll be right there with you. The warmth in his voice made Zuri's chest tight with emotion. Over the past month, she'd started looking forward to these quiet moments together, even more than the therapy breakthroughs. Evan? Yeah? After therapy today, would you like to see where I work? Maya's been after me to visit the office, and I think I'm finally ready. Evan's hand stilled on the shampoo bottle. Are you sure? After everything with Victor, especially after everything with Victor, I need to show up as myself, not as some carefully managed version of myself. That afternoon, Mrs. Alvarez watched with quiet pride as Zuri gripped the parallel bars and slowly, carefully, lifted herself to standing. Good. Now remember, small steps. Don't worry about distance. Zuri took a breath and shifted her weight forward. Her left foot moved first, a small but definite step. Then her right. She wobbled slightly on the second step, but Evan's steadying presence behind her gave her confidence to try once more. 3 steps, Mrs. Alvarez announced as Zuri settled back into her wheelchair. 3 beautiful steps. Zuri was laughing and crying at the same time. Did you see that? Did you both see that? We saw, Evan said, his own voice thick with emotion. You were amazing. Later, as they sat in the rehab center's small cafe, Zuri pulled out her phone. I want to show you something, she said, scrolling to her camera roll. This was me 6 months ago. The photo showed Zuri at some kind of business conference, standing confidently at a podium in a sharp black suit. Her smile was brilliant, but somehow distant, professional. You look beautiful, Evan said, but different. How? Harder. More guarded, maybe? Zuri studied the image. I was so focused on being perfect, on controlling every detail of how people saw me. She looked up at Evan. I never let anyone see me struggle, ever. And now? Now I take 3 steps and cry in public. She wiped her eyes with a laugh. And somehow that feels more honest than anything I did before. When they arrived at Zuri's office building, Evan felt a moment of uncertainty. The lobby was all marble and glass, filled with people in expensive suits, moving with purposeful energy. He was acutely aware of his simple khakis and polo shirt, his role as a caregiver in this world of business executives. You okay? Zuri asked, noticing his hesitation. Just feeling a little out of place. You belong wherever I am, she said firmly. Remember that. The elevator ride to the 15th floor was quiet. When the doors opened, they were greeted by a spacious office with floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture. Several people looked up from their desks, their faces lighting up when they saw Zuri. Ms. Bennett, a young woman with curly red hair, hurried over. We've missed you so much. Hi, Sarah. How's the Morrison campaign coming along? As Zuri moved through the office, greeting her team and catching up on projects, Evan watched her transform. This was Zuri in her element, and she was magnificent, sharp, decisive, creative. She belonged here. But when they reached her corner office, the atmosphere shifted. A man in an expensive suit was sitting behind Zuri's desk, talking on the phone. Victor. He looked up when they entered, his expression shifting from surprise to disapproval when he saw Evan. Zuri, I wasn't expecting you. Victor ended his call and stood, not moving away from her desk. And Mr. Hart. How unexpected. It's my office, Victor. I don't need an appointment. Of course not, but perhaps your aide could wait in reception while we discuss some urgent matters? Zuri's jaw tightened. Evan isn't going anywhere, and neither am I. What are you doing at my desk? Managing the Sullivan account crisis. Someone had to step in while you've been recovering. The way he said recovering made it sound like a character flaw. I'm ready to resume my full duties, Zuri said evenly. Are you? Because from what I hear, you've been more focused on personal matters than professional ones. Evan felt Zuri tense beside him. He wanted to say something, but he knew this wasn't his fight. What exactly are you implying, Victor? I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. You've missed 3 client meetings, delegated 2 major presentations, and apparently been spending your therapy sessions making googly eyes at the help. The silence that followed was deafening. Evan felt every eye in the office turn toward them through the glass walls. Get out of my chair, Zuri said quietly. Zuri, be reasonable. Get out of my chair. Victor moved slowly, like he was doing her a favor. Fine, but this conversation isn't over. The board is asking questions about your fitness to lead. Your personal choices are becoming professional liabilities. After Victor left, Zuri sat behind her desk for a long moment, staring at her hands. Are you okay? Evan asked. No, I'm not. She looked up at him, her eyes bright with anger. He's right about one thing. My choices do have consequences. For you, for me, for everyone around us. Zuri, I need to think about what I want, about what I'm willing to risk. She turned her wheelchair to face the window, looking out at the city below. Maybe I should go back to my apartment, alone. Evan felt something cold settle in his stomach. If that's what you want. It's not about what I want. It's about what's smart. They rode down in the elevator in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. As they reached the ground floor, Zuri's phone buzzed with a text. She looked at it and sighed. Maya, she says Tom is asking for me, wants to know if we can visit him this weekend. Evan's father had been asking about Zuri for weeks. She'd become a regular topic of conversation during their phone calls. You don't have to, Evan said. I know everything's complicated right now. Zuri studied his face. Do you want me to meet him? Yes, more than anything. Then let's go see your father. Saturday afternoon found them at Tom Hart's assisted living facility. It was a pleasant place with wide hallways and cheerful common areas. Tom was waiting for them in his apartment, dressed in his best sweater and sitting straighter than Evan had seen him in months. Dad, this is Zuri, Evan said as they entered the small living room. Tom's face lit up with a smile that reminded Zuri exactly where Evan had gotten his warmth. Zuri, Tom said carefully, the word coming out clear and strong. Beautiful name, beautiful girl. Thank you, Mr. Hart. Evan talks about you all the time. Good things, I hope. Always good things. As they sat together, sharing coffee and the cookies Zuri had brought, Tom's speech therapist arrived for his afternoon session. Evan started to suggest they leave, but Tom waved him off. Stay. Want Zuri to see. The session was simple but moving. Tom worked through exercises, forming words with careful concentration. When he successfully completed a tongue twister that had been giving him trouble, he looked directly at Zuri. Progress, he said proudly. Slow but sure. Just like me, Zuri replied, and Tom's face crinkled with understanding. After the therapist left, Tom took Zuri's hand in both of his. My son, he said slowly, is good man, kind heart, careful hands. He looked at Evan, then back at Zuri. He loves you. Evan started to protest, but Tom held up a hand. Can see it, in his face, in how he says your name. Tom squeezed Zuri's hand gently. Question is, you love him back? Zuri felt tears prick at her eyes. The simple directness of the question cut through all the complications and fears and professional concerns. Yes, she whispered, I do. Tom smiled and patted her hand. Then rest is just details. On the drive back to Zuri's apartment, they were both quiet. The weight of her admission hung between them, impossible to ignore. Your father is wonderful, Zuri said finally. He likes you, I can tell. How? He used your name. Dad only uses people's names when they matter to him. They pulled into the parking garage of Zuri's building, but neither moved to get out of the car. Evan, Zuri said, turning to face him, what your father said back there. You don't have to explain anything. I know the situation is complicated. It is complicated, but that doesn't change how I feel. She took a deep breath. I love you too. The words hung in the air between them, precious and terrifying. What do we do now? Evan asked. I don't know, but I'm tired of being afraid of what other people think. I'm tired of letting Victor and his opinions control my life. Zuri reached for Evan's hand. I want to try. Really try. Whatever that means, whatever it costs. Are you sure? For the first time in months, I'm sure about something. Evan lifted their joined hands and kissed her knuckles softly. Then we'll figure it out together. As they rode the elevator up to her apartment, Zuri felt something she hadn't experienced since before her accident. Hope, not just for walking again or returning to work, but for something bigger. a future that included love and honesty and the courage to choose what mattered most. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped into the hallway together. Whatever came next, they would face it the same way they'd faced everything else over the past 4 months. Together, with patience and trust and the quiet strength that had grown between them one morning at a time. In her apartment, as Evan helped her prepare dinner, Zuri watched him move around her kitchen with the same careful attention he brought to everything. 3 months ago, she would have seen dependence in needing his help. Now she saw partnership. Evan? Yeah? Tomorrow I want to call a board meeting. Tell them I'm resuming full duties and that Victor will no longer be speaking on my behalf. Evan paused in chopping vegetables. You sure you're ready for that fight? I'm sure I'm ready to stop hiding. Zuri moved her wheelchair closer to where he stood. And I want you there, not as my aide, but as someone I care about, someone who's part of my life. That's going to cause talk. Let them talk. I've spent too much energy trying to control what people think. It's time to focus on what I know is true. And what's that? Zuri reached up and took his face in her hands, pulling him down until their foreheads touched. That love is worth fighting for. That you're worth fighting for. That we're worth fighting for. When Evan kissed her, soft and sure, Zuri felt the last of her carefully constructed walls finally crumble. Not into ruins, but into the foundation for something new, something honest, something real. Outside, the city sparkled in the evening light, full of possibility and promise. And inside her apartment, surrounded by the quiet peace they had built together, Zuri Bennett finally understood that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from standing alone, but from choosing to fall in love. The next morning would bring new challenges, difficult conversations, and choices that would reshape both their lives. But tonight, they had this: trust, tenderness, and the radical courage to choose love over fear. It was enough. It was everything. The end.